your topic, amazing job we're doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. Now let's jump right into it. Today's topic is reality of college life, and we have a special guest for the show, Johan, who's a staff member here at FEBA. It's indeed a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Sure. So, for this edition of the Reality Bang, Johan and I will be having a discussion regarding the reality of college life and give you guys
Mm,
a better viewpoint on this topic. So, my
yeah.
first question is, what are
Mm,
some misconceptions about college life versus the reality?
Okay. First, before any of that, I think we need.
Yeah, there's a slight technical issue. He will be back. Yeah.
Yes, I am back. Okay. No, so I was saying I think everyone's like college experience is different. So I think what misconceptions we have, everyone experience is also different. I think as a kid, I think movies really spoiled it for us. I think college
Yeah.
college life, how it was. The college life was supposed to be like a full party for all of us, and people. Yeah, we thought we watched the movies. Everyone is like all jumping around and dancing with music. Yeah. And when we were a kid, we really thought, we all, I think, were like just super excited to go to college at that time. We enter college, it's nothing like what we thought, right? I think to an extent, like we all got like a rough idea of how college life will be within 11th and 12th itself, maybe because of our seniors. And because some of them had PUC itself with their experience itself is almost like a college life for them. So uh, I think these kind of misconceptions, like you can bunk class however you want, and you will have a lot of free time, like you think. But I think for me, I've been grateful enough that because if my cousins, I remember like them telling me like how much they miss school life because college was very stressful for them, when they were all doctors and MBBS students. But for me, I think lucky enough, I don't know, I didn't miss my school life for such in that way. Like in a weird way, I think my college life, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying. So my college life was, I think, slightly far better than my school life. It was a lot more chill. I think that was partly because of studying in Joseph's. By the way, both of us studied in Joseph. We are batchmates.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as you were saying, both of us did study in Joseph's. So, he's back again. So, he'll continue.
Yeah. So I think because of studying in Joseph, the Joseph experience is a lot, different. I think the college experience itself altogether in Joseph's is a lot different. I feel. So I don't think I think in that way, like I think crowd wise also Joseph's has a very good crowd. So I don't think one of the best things about Joseph's I felt is if you socialize, I don't think there's difficulty in socializing as such. I mean, in general, people will have difficulty in socializing, but if you have no problem in socializing, I think
There's a slight technical issue. He will be back in a few and he'll continue with the narration of his thing. But yeah, he did say about Joseph being really good. And of course, it is really good, but I did miss out due to COVID because the first year was really good. Then during the second semester, COVID did come in and it wasn't really that great because we were just glued to our laptops, glued to our phones with all the, you know, online classes and
mm,
online, projects and all of that. But you were saying, continue with yours.
Uh, yeah, so no, I think it differs from college to college. Like, if you ask people who studied in Christ, their experience itself is a lot different from like Josephites, right? Like because Christ is a lot more strict in many ways. I think Joseph's is a little bit more calm in that way. But I think academic different also because the course I studied was a lot more practical. There was a lot of workload for me, but I don't know, it never felt like it never felt like work for me. I don't know, for some reason, because because it was practical, I liked the course what I was doing. I think it was fun for me. But then I know so many other people, like, who did not enjoy the course itself altogether, and for them it's a big ruckus, sitting and completing all those assignments. And I think another misconception is, I think everything, like, we don't until we go to the college, we don't know how the college is, and like only through maybe websites and whatever YouTube videos where people talk about their experience, we get a gist of it. And the moment we enter, we the reality of the course itself sometimes, is very different. Like like how the future, like after college life, like I think one of the like I think teachers in school also don't tell this enough to like students, like after college, because they make it look like you study well enough in school, you'll kill it in college. Yeah, it's it's not, that's not the case. And I think just like after, like, and another misconception is they always say, like, if you work hard enough in college, work after work wise, it will become, after college it will become much easier, which is also not the case. Like after college also you're going to struggle, right, in every single thing. So I think, like, just like how when we were in college, the work life itself was the reality we didn't know, right, when we were in college, and which we
Yeah.
realized. So I think misconceptions happens. Misconception is simply because we have not experienced it altogether. Our only source of experience was through maybe like our understanding of how college life was through, probably internet, because we grew up in the internet era, and also a lot to do with movies as well. Movies was ruined it, I think, for us from childhood. Oh, but what for you, was it like the same misconception? Like, how was it?
I mean, like after finishing my PU, I expected college to be, this really massive step in my life. But then when I started, I was like, okay, this is such a downer. Like this is the worst downer anyone can have. Like you come in having very high expectations. You find all this fabulous thing laid out in movies, series, and all of that. And then
Hmm.
when you actually come into reality, you are hit with you're hit with the actual reality that yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, or not even like as hard as people are making it out to be. It's
Hmm.
sort of like this cloud that just keeps on following you everywhere. But I never really had fun to begin with, like in during the first year. I mean, a little
Hmm.
bit, not so much. And second year was mostly through online, but the third year I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
Like the people who I met, like in the third year, like I really wish I had been more close to them in the
Mm,
first year,
mm,
and not got into all sorts of nonsense in the first year. But if I knew these people in the like in the first year, which I knew from the third year, my college life would have been a lot more better. That's the only regret I have in life. That's
mm.
it.
But then also we are the quarantine batch, right? So 1.5 years
Yeah.
went in online itself, which was, I think, one of the worst things, because like a lot of my seniors were like, I knew like third year will be like a lot more. I won't say hectic, but because for me, like final project came and the internship also came in final year for me. So that was a different. The only so I knew those things. So that itself is almost so in term when you're doing the internship, one entire semester itself went in that. So because of that, like second year was my biggest thing, like biggest I think problem, that we had to sit and attend the whole thing online. I wish we could have been in college. But for me, I don't know, first year, I won't say my college life was like amazing or anything. It was pretty normal life. But then I won't say it was a lot more. I would say it was slightly more interesting than my school life. I think it was simply because of the course. Also, I think another thing is, for me, when I was in because of studying in school. I ended up interacting only mostly with like people from Bangalore, right? The moment I enter college, you're meeting people of completely from different places. So I think that itself is it's something, it's very interesting, to meet such different kind of people, because when you was living, when you was I studied in Johns and then I studied in Bishop Cottons. It's almost like a specific same type of people only will end up meeting. In college you end up meeting much different kind of people, which was very interesting for me. But unfortunately, because of quarantine, I couldn't we couldn't interact much. And Like I was saying, I think the biggest advantage in Joseph's for me for us was that, so like crowd was good. Like it's a good crowd. So you actually end up meeting very interesting people outside your class itself. Which I think second year I wish we could have been in college, for that, but we couldn't.
Yeah, that's the only sad part, because imagine if like you actually had your 3 years in college versus like maybe 1.5 year in college. Like I'll say the 3 years would be much better than just a 1.5 year, to be honest.
Hmm. But also I
Now,
think it depends. Yeah, yeah, content.
yeah, yeah. Continue. You were saying?
No, no, I think also like college, like how college experiences, it depends like from people. Like the ones who are studying like MBBS, because my cousins itself have studied MBBS, they have told how stressful it is, how like even after final year, like after MBBS also, like it's very stressful for them, with doing masters, because it's reached a point where MBBS is not enough for them to, to work in a place. So they have to continue doing masters as well, and it's so hectic and stressful. It's almost like so many years they have sat and worked hard for this, and they feel like it's not worth it itself. They feel, so a lot of them, they just hate the profession towards the end because of the way the system is. But for me, I think in that way I was lucky enough that college life wasn't boring as such for me, like for a lot of people. I won't say it was interesting, but then at the same time, I won't say I was completely bored in college.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you now, what are your biggest challenges students face when transitioning to college life?
From school, I think one uh, the biggest problem they face is like they have in mind, that they're going to do that. They'll have in mind that this is the path I want to take after college, and I think that completely changes for them throughout the college, right? Like first year, like they want to do something. Second year, they end up thinking something else. Third year, I think that they end up thinking something. They have something else in mind. I think in the beginning you have something in mind. By final year, where you're very blank. You don't know what to do. So I think the biggest problem, like a lot of them face, is even after final year, they still have no clue what to do. And when we were more clear in our mind when we were in school than in college, I think, with our careers. And when you
Yeah,
actually end up studying the course, you end up, when like you want to do something, but when you actually start learning it, you're not enjoying it as much as you thought, and you're finding a lot other things interesting, and then you jump into that's not interesting, and then you get into this whole, your mind is in just absolute chaos, because you're trying so many different things, and it's not working out itself, and that's a problem they face even after college. And I think I feel like that's the biggest like problems a lot of students also end up facing, because they have been told that you study well, and then you'll do well in college. Like a lot of them even end up struggling even in college, like despite studying hard even in school, right? So
yeah,
yeah, the reason they told you to do, the two school teachers told you all of that, is so that you end up scoring good marks in school, yeah. And they need like good good grades. And then when you enter college, the system itself is completely different. And I think again, I think it depends, like the problems like students face from places to places. Some of them, they don't like the college itself altogether, so because of that, maybe they like the course, but the college is so bad they're not able to enjoy the course, a lot of them. And that they can't help it, because they thought the college had good ranking and everything, and they enter, and they may not like it as much as everyone else. Some people, the college might be good, but then the course itself is not interesting for them like they thought. So I think the problems they face is, it's a lot of confusion. I think that what they thought will work out, will not work out. That kind of, I don't know if I would consider it a reality check or anything, but I think that's the phase where people, you really are trying to figure out what you want to do in school, despite having something in mind. It's in college where you get that reality check, what you want to do and what you have to figure out. And I think like even after like even towards the final year, it's very hard, right? Like, none of us had anything like in mind specifically what we wanted to do. And we just have to just like in college we were confused. I think after college also we have to just experiment and figure out what to do exactly and figure out what we are interested. I think the biggest problem is that they may not have the career path that they have in mind. I think that's the biggest problem like a lot of college students will face.
Yeah. So for me, if you ask me, I'll say like when I'll talk personally. When I entered college life, my thing was, maybe I'll not find the right click, the right group of people to,
Mm,
click with.
mm,
But because I started off as an introvert, I wasn't so extroverted as I am now. So when I started, I was like, all to myself. But luckily, I had a school friend there, and
mm,
we were just together for just a little bit, and then later, when I found my clique, and I used to hang out with them, and later all some stuff happened, and then is when the quarantine came in, and we had
mm,
all this online classes and all the nonsense, and finally when we came back into college, like that's the thing when I really found my group.
mm,
So it took a while to actually find my group, but I'm happy I finally found them in the end. So
mm,
usually that is the most challenging thing. I won't say it's the studying part, because you used to study anyway, so pass or
mm,
fail, you're still going to get another shot at it.
mm,
And if you get another shot, obviously you're going to pass it. So there's nothing, you have to study, you have to keep going. And
mm,
I'll say like studies was a lot more easier compared to right now when you're actually working,
right.
because study I just give like an hour or two in studies, and the next exam I'm scoring like maybe 60, 70, give or take.
Mm,
But if I do the same thing for work, it's not gonna make a change. I'm still gonna be bad at it. Like until I
mm,
dedicate day in and day out to become good at my craft, in order to get certain promotions, get certain incentives.
mm.
But in studying it wasn't like that, so I feel college was much more easier compared to real life.
I think studies wise, yeah, school was a lot more difficult because there's so many different subjects you're studying. College, like you're studying more specifically some certain type of subjects in detail. For me, also, like you said, like college, when it comes to academic wise, it didn't feel like stressful for me because a lot of them are practical based. So it was fun for me to do all of them. I didn't get bored doing all of them, like you said. But also, I think like a lot of like misconceptions we spoke about, like how the real like they don't like when you're in school, like a lot of the like assumptions you have in college and all of that gets broken, right? So
Yeah.
when you enter college and like attendance is taken more seriously over there and deadlines is taken more seriously in college, which was not taken much serious in school days. And like I know so many of my classmates itself who, because of having the cutoff was 75%, and some people had like it's in 70%, and they had to continue an entire year again. A lot of them dropped out and went to other college and continued another courses. And that's though these kind of stuffs of taking a lot of like I think academics for us they made sure like they told like the students also took it more seriously. And that way I think luckily enough the students also they weren't just fooling around, they actually submitted everything, the deadlines on time. But so I think just like how in school like we won't understand college life only after entering college life we understand. Same thing with work, right? Like when you're in college you don't understand how work life will be. And
Yeah.
only when I started doing my internship I got a gist of understanding, and then I think everything we'll just have to figure out, phase by phase.
Yeah, that's true. Now, coming over to my next question. Now, how do students balance academic demands, extracurricular
Mm.
activities, and social life in college?
Social life, I don't know. Social life is, I think, subjective from person to person. How they end up socializing and meeting. I think, like I mentioned in Joseph's, it's not really. If you put in the effort to socialize with people, you're going to meet some very interesting people altogether. So
Yeah.
socializing, so socializing. I think maybe if it clashes with your academics, that people will somehow figure it out in some way or the other. But extracurricular activities, I think in Joseph's, like a lot of them were part of a lot of these cultural associations and groups, right? I think like the attendance was taken care of for them. So in that way, in one way or another, like some colleges, when they're doing this for the when they're taking part in these cultural activities for the college, I think they give them help them in attendance or such in that way. So, but yeah, like the moment you need to invest your time into that as well, that will end up like your academics also might get very difficult with it. But I don't know if there's any answer to how they cope up with uh, all of it. I think it's more coping up with the academics, with the social life and the curricular activities more than adjusting those two, I feel. But like for me, first year I was a little bit involved in music in college in that ways, but the because the workload was lesser for me in first year, it wasn't as pressurizing for me as it was for like a lot of my other friends over there, who actually had to sit and study. Like they were, a lot of them were BSc students and a lot of them were computer students, so they had to sit and actually put effort and study, whereas everything else for me was a lot more practical. So for me, I think adjusting with the curricular activities in college with academics, for me it was very easy. How was it for you?
So for me, like, this whole thing, right? You can be the jack of all trades, but you can't be the master of anything.
Mm,
So I wasn't that great at academics, but I was good at extracurricular activities and social life in my college day. So
mm,
I mostly used to take part in like sports, sports day and all of that. In the first year, it was really good. Like I had a really fun team to, the inter class sports competition. I
mm,
think that's what it was called.
yeah, yeah.
And my class, we decided to go with the relay. I did not know about the 100-meter dash or the 200-meter dash anything before. So one day, just the sports representative comes and asks me like, yo, you want to take part in the relay? I was like,
Mm,
you're telling me now? And she was like, yeah, because there's not many people who are that active in sports. We had like maybe a handful of five to
mm,
begin with. So I was like, okay, fine, let's go. So we went, we performed. We did not get a good place. We came like maybe fourth or something. So we weren't actually selected. But
mm,
I had fun, like like training the week before that with my couple of friends, and actually going out there and performing. It really gave me that satisfaction. I could do it. And
mm,
social life, of course, it was really good, but academics wasn't really that good until it came to the third year.
mm,
I was good at academics, I was good at my social life, but my sports life, like, took a straight down hit.
mm.
So you can be good in like any two, but you can't be good at like all three. So that's my kind of understanding with it.
But also, like, I would also recommend try yourself involving. There are a lot of like, if you get into colleges, like there are a lot of like associations for different curricular activities. But I
Yeah.
would advise them to do, because if you're just going to if you're just stuck with your academics, it will really, your brain will fry, I think, in college. So
Of
and
course.
yeah, so I think socializing also, like the advantage in Joseph's was that we could socialize outside our class itself, like
Yeah.
I ended up knowing a lot of meeting a lot of people, who are not even, like, a lot of them are not even my classmates. So I think that way, like, a little bit of socializing will keep you a little bit sane, I think, in college.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to sit and study, it's just gonna fry you. So I think coping up with, your social life and academics and curricular activities, it really depends from people to people, because some of them, when they involve themselves in curricular activities, they end up reaching home very late, and for whatever care reasons, and they get tired, and but for some people, they don't find it as a problem itself altogether. So it's really how they can adjust in some way or another. If you're going to
Yeah.
involve yourself in curricular activities, you also have to like learn to, like, I think, adjust with, with timings.
Yeah. So actually, what role does mental health play in college experience, and how can students cope with stress? Because you did mention earlier about the stress part. So how can they actually cope with that?
Cope with it. I don't know, man. I think with a lot of them, I think the best way I would say, it might be as difficult as possible, but try sticking around with your friends in college as much as possible, because you're not gonna get time. You're not gonna get to spend time with them that much like after college. So I would really, I think socializing is one of the best ways to cope up with it, because sometimes you may not enjoy the sometimes in college you may not enjoy the college life because of how the college system itself is, sometimes, and that will stress you out. So best thing I would say is to just stick around with your friends, and with a right with one with a set of friends that you just how to put it, like, I think you're just it's a relaxation for you, you're not you
Hmm.
don't have to put the effort of socializing. You're just there. Everything is it's everything is calm for you just being around with them. So I think the best way to cope up with mental health is not keeping yourself with alone, because in college it's easy to just isolate yourself and be all alone, and especially when you're in college, that's the worst thing I feel you can do, because I think with the workload that you might have, I think it'll be. I think that was the biggest like problem with a lot of the students during the lockdown, right? With the workload you have, and then you have to sit home, and you can't socialize. That made it worse for a lot of people. It made it worse for me as well. I think it would
Yeah.
have been a little bit better. I think if we were in college and we had our friends and we were hung around, I think that would have made it a lot better. So I think the best thing to cope up is, at least if it's a pressure, if it's like mental pressure for you because of the college, because of the academics, or because of hating the college life, I think best thing to do is find yourself, even a couple of friends that you can stick around with throughout college. That's what that's how I coped up throughout.
Yeah. If you ask me, I'll say, like, do the things you actually love doing. So some people like to, have a run or go to the gym, or maybe, play any sport or do music or anything like that. Do that more than, more than you spend, like reading a book or something like that. Some people
Mm,
might enjoy reading books or anything, but some people who don't like reading, and people recommend, yeah, you know what, you read this book, you'll become automatically, mentally healthy or anything like that. I'll say,
mm,
like, do the things you love.
mm,
Because if you do the things you love, you'll never actually get bored of it, and that will make you happy at the end of the day.
mm.
And of course, it proves that, being happy actually helps you cope with stress. So the more happy you are, the less stress you'll have actually.
Mm. Oh yeah, and also, like, if you're able to have like some way of like consuming entertainment, it may be like reading book or watching movies or listening to music, playing music, or whatever the case. Make sure you can do it as much as possible in college,
Yeah,
because after college, you won't get the time to sit and do all of those things. So it's best, I think. Like I always say, because I watch a lot of movies, I also keep telling, I think the best time to like binge on movies is only in your college life, because you won't get to do that, in your work life as well. So yeah, I think you're
exactly.
right about that. Like, I think just doing what makes you happy itself is something in some way you can cope up in college. But also, including that, I think socializing is, I think, another also another great way of of keeping yourself sane during college. I feel.
Exactly, that's true. Now, how do students navigate the pressure to, choose a major and plan for their future careers? Like, some go for CA, some go for engineering, doctors, and so on.
They don't. They can't navigate. No, like, I think it changes, like what the career path, like I was mentioning earlier, right, like what career path they have in mind will, when they actually practically start, okay, let's just whatever the case. Okay, let's just take my course itself. I did animation. So when I
Yeah,
started, I there were a lot of different stuff they taught us, all the way from designing to editing to shooting to video production to animation. And when you start doing a lot, like, I thought I want to become an animator. I wanted to do 2D animation. But when you start doing 2D animation, it's fun to do. But then there's another thing. I was more interested in designing. So I wanted to become a designer, and 3D is something I hated throughout college. So I didn't enjoy doing 3D animation throughout. So I think I feel like college is when it comes to your career path, college is a phase where you felt like you have it figured out, but when you come to college, when you actually try practically like pursuing whatever path that you want to do in your college life, it I think it will switch in even in when your second year and in your third year, and I feel like unfortunately a lot of us end up becoming clueless even after college with what they can't do. But I think it's fine. Like there is like, and I don't think anyone have like their entire career or any of it planned, right? So
Yeah,
like even if you have it planned in a certain way, it's not going to work out exactly the way you've planned it. So I think the best thing to do is you can't predict or whatever what will happen to you, which path you're going to take. Not everything will work out the way you want it, but whatever situation that you are in your life, I think the best thing is to just okay, fine, it didn't work out for me, let me try something else new, and let's see how this works out. I think with that, I think the best thing to do is be as optimistic as possible with and don't if you're gonna try to get into some career path, don't give up very easily because it's stressful. But even if it's stressful, try to make sure and see that if you're despite the stress, if the result is fruitful for you, if you're enjoying, if that's something that you really and are happy say with, I think it's worth the shot, putting all that effort throughout. But if you're not happy with what you're doing, you can always try something. So I think the best thing to do is, with whatever situation you are in, accept whatever situation and you are in, and try to move on and see what you can do best in the future. That's how I would say the best way to navigate. What would you say to the
Y-
school students?
yeah. So let's just say when you're in school, okay, I thought maybe I'll go do something, something really good for the future, like lawyer, something like that, something where you can earn a lot and live really comfortably.
Mm,
Then I thought, okay, maybe I'll start a business, so I took commerce. And when I studied commerce, I learned, like, okay, I'm really tired with all the maths accounts, right? I
mm,
hated maths when I
mm,
was in school. That was the worst subject ever. Like, no matter how good teachers were, no matter how good they explained, I hated it.
yeah.
And when I took accounts as well, I hated it. So I switched from a commerce background into an arts background. I ended up taking journalism, international relations, and public policy.
Mm,
Now, while going through it, my dad gave me a lot of high hopes. He told, like, yeah, you know what, you can go for the UN or become a journalist or any of that. Journalist was there for a while, but when I did my internship in Indian Express, I decided, like, yeah, you know what, journalist is not for me. Even their own journalists are telling you, like, you know what, don't become a journalist. It's the world's hellish job ever.
mm,
And I decided, you know what, I'm not, doing any of this. And I ended up going back into business again. So right now I'm just working for business. And
mm,
right now it's turning out to be really good. I mean, I don't have the uh, what do you say, the bad shadow of maths following me anywhere around,
mm,
because what I'm doing is strictly completely different, depending on sales and marketing. That's what I'm into
yeah.
now. And I realized, like, it's sort of like a skill. It's not actually sort of, it is a skill that you require in your entire life. Because if you can sell anything to anybody, imagine
Mm,
what you can do if you open your own business,
mm,
right? Even if you start a small toffee brand, this Pulse, right? This Pulse sweet,
yeah.
it's hardly cost like maybe $1, I think,
Mm,
₹1.
yeah.
And the dude is making like crores of profit in a year. So
Mm,
like ₹1 toffee goes all the way to crores of profit in a year. So
mm,
you can see how everything clicks all of a sudden. So it's not about what you actually start. Like, I went all over the place, and finally I found like what I'm really good at. So you know what, it's obviously very difficult to keep going through it, but you're never going to
mm,
see fruits of your labor if you're not willing to work hard for it. No pain,
yeah,
no gain, right? You have to be
absolutely.
willing to go through hell.
Yeah,
That's what I
absolutely.
say.
But then also, like I am also like, yeah, I agree with you on that. But then also, I feel like if I feel like if there is a lot of, you need to like really, like there's no such thing as an overnight success, right? You
Yeah,
have to, like, whatever, like you see people, if you looked up to someone, they have they have really mastered whatever skill, they're mastered in. It's taken them like 10 plus years to master itself. But
exactly.
the thing is, the process is probably hectic, but I think if you're not enjoying, even though if it's a hectic process, if you're enjoying it, I think it's worth a shot to move, try to take a step further, and try working even harder. But I feel like if the process, no matter how simple or difficult it is, if you're not enjoying it, but and I don't know. Like I feel like no matter how difficult the process is not fun for them, to do. I think the best thing is to try something else that they're that they're interested in. A lot of them end up like I know, like a lot of my friends itself who end up doing designing for passion, and but toward now a lot of them are doing it for the money, but which is fine, because the reality of the profession will is very different from people to people person. Like for me, it's not as like I don't hate the designing, profession as much as they do. But for them, they're finding it boring, so now they're doing it all for the money. I think towards the end, so that's another thing, right? Like a lot of them just end up doing take whatever career path, they just end up doing it for the money. Because when they get into the career path with passion, they realize they're not interested in it, as it's not as interesting as they assumed it would be. So they end up doing it for the money. So a lot of them continue doing that. I think for someone like me who wants to do design for passion, initially I found it annoying, but then later I think it's just fine, because I think a lot of them, why they do financially, they end up doing it for money reasons. It's it's differs from person to person, I also feel. So I think it's a lot of them end up doing it for the money, which might seem like a very bad, horrible thing, but it's actually, I don't find, I think because they did it for the passion, it didn't work out the way that they expected it to, and they're just doing it now for the money part. I think it's completely fine, and
Yeah, at the end of the day, you do need money to survive,
yeah.
even have a life to begin with. So, coming over to the money part now, how does college, like this entire college experience, prepare students for the realities of the workforce and their adult life?
No, can you ask me the question once? I've just.
So, how does the college experience prepare
Hmm.
students for the realities of the workforce and adult life?
Okay, okay. And again, I think that way, I think what lot of the I think that's what internship is for, right? I think it is for you to prepare yourself for your job. And but
Yeah.
the thing is, again, that also I think depends from people to person to person. For me, my internship was it was a nice place, and it was very nice people, but the work timings was such that I didn't it wasn't something I wanted to do. So that's why a lot of them who end up doing the what a lot of colleges do with the internships is so that they work there, and a lot of them continue working over that. That's one of the things what college actually does. But again, I think, like, just like school does not really exactly guide you to do what you want. They give more than guiding you to do what you want. They give you more options, to what to do, to keep your mind open with with whatever possibilities. And when you enter college, it's a very different universe altogether. The experience for them. So I think I don't know how much. I think what college does for you is, whatever course you're doing, they're telling you the possibilities of profession. Here and this is that, that is that, and I think for you, I think it really what career path you will end up doing. It really, I don't think it's the. I don't feel like it's the college responsibility. I think like what exactly we want to do. I feel like it is in one way or another. It's our responsibility. I feel because if they really which is another thing what colleges do, right? Like placements is what another thing colleges do for the career. But for me, like there were placements, but I didn't end up doing them, going for it. But I think it really what career path you end up what your work life, getting ready for your work life. I feel like even though I did the internship, it'll still, I feel like it still will be different, for them when you actually start working. An internship versus working full time, it's actually two different experiences itself for me altogether. So I like work life is good. I like it. It's fun. For fun, I'm getting to do designing and editing. These are things I like to do. So I think it's all figuring out. Figuring out is something that only we can do. I don't know how much college can help you in navigating in that way.
If you talk about my experience now, our placement rep, she never really did anything. So we never really got any of these placements or anything. We had to go ourselves and search for the internship. And even for a job, we never used to get anything. We never actually got anything. We had to go ourselves and look for it.
Mm,
But if you talk about the reality part, there's one of two things most students are interested in. Well, number one is money, number two is passion. They can go for either one. Now, I'll talk about the money part and then I'll switch over to the passion part. Now, money part, if you want to make money, you have to be willing to go to hell. Money doesn't come like just like that. You snap a finger and you have like 10K in
mm,
in front of you. No, to get that 10K, you have to be willing to work, and I mean really work for it. But at some point in your life, you will have that ability, snap the finger and 10K is falling.
mm,
That's what business does. That's what your passion further on does. Now, coming
mm,
out to the passion part, passion can help that make that happen. If you're really passionate about something, say you're passionate in music, you go on to make like really good tracks, you go on to make really good songs, really good hits, you snap your fingers, you're getting 10K. Why? Because you're very passionate about doing something, and that passion will bring fruit.
mm.
Now, of course, it's going to be major rain. It's going to
Yeah.
be a huge rain cloud falling you all over. But if you find a way to overcome that, if you have a really strong will, you will find extremely, extremely good results. Like, there are a lot of successful people who have done that, and they say the exact same thing. Do not let such things, get you down. You have a vision, you have a focus. You got to keep moving towards that. And if you're really strong, if you're really mentally strong, if you really want that, you will make it happen, and then your life is going to be great. That's what.
Yeah, I agree. And then passion is also like, I think when it comes to the passion, best thing to do is, at least in the start of your passion, don't think of the money part. I would
Exactly.
believe it. Because I don't think anyone will end up getting, good pay if they're going to really pursue the passion they want. If they, that takes a lot of years of experience and, networking and connecting with people itself altogether. But
Exactly.
yeah, I agree with you in that. I think in the initial stages of your like, a lot of people who do it for the passion, towards the end they end up doing it for the money, right?
Yeah.
I think it's completely like, for me, for someone like me who wants to do something for passion, it seems like, it would seem something very like, horrible, like, why would someone do that? But if you look at their side, why they're not actually enjoying it, like anyone else, and they just want to end up doing it for the money, because now they've gotten into the profession, getting out of it and starting from scratch in another profession. They don't want to get into that, so they're like, okay, let me just continue with this profession, and they end up doing it. I think I think, when you it might find when you're in your college and you hear this, people want to do something for passion, they end up doing it for the money. It might seem like, because when you're in your college, you don't have to think about the, money part as much as you might have to, like, when you start working. So I think that reality check, like, when they themselves are in that situation, they'll, I think, definitely understand it. I think it's fine, when you do it for the passion, and towards the end they end up just doing it for the money.
As I said, like, if you focus on your passion, you have to have a strong will, because
Yeah.
nothing is going to come right into your plate. You have to be willing to work for it. Starting, you may not get anything. You may get like a very low sum, or you may not get anything at all, but eventually it
Mhm.
will pay off.
Hmm.
That's what I have to say.
Definitely.
So that officially brings us to the end of today's show. A huge thank you for Johan for joining the show.
Thank you so much for calling me.
Sure. Remember, guys, we air on Mondays at 4:30 p.m. That's it. If you guys want to contribute to our topics, have anything to say, or just want to tell us what an amazing job we're doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. And a huge thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this edition of The Reality Bang. Your weekly dose of youth power brought to you by FEBA Online. This is RJ Johan. Hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Monday. God bless you.